Ladies and gentlemen, going forward, we now have a presentation on CRONTO authentication, an alternative to SMS OTP, which will be presented by Shri Pinakin Dave, Country Manager, India and SARC OneSpan. Mr. Pinakin is a security industry veteran and brings deep knowledge of changing IT security landscape in banking and financial industries for the last 24 years. In the past, Mr. Pinakin has represented reputed organizations like McAfee, Hewlett-Packard in senior capacity. So may I request you to kindly take the stage and please complete the presentation in the allotted time frame of 10 minutes so that we go as per schedule.
This is what? All right, so good afternoon everyone. I'll take not more than 7 minutes. So what you see on the screen is the industry's only answer for the no naked OTPs, which is there. This is the industry's only dynamic color QR code. The name is CRONTO, and that's what something which is we are going to talk about it today, which is let me assure you this content is specifically meant for this audience, and you will not find this content anywhere else. Let me try to make it more interesting. I'll not give much talk about the OneSpan, but I just wanted to let you know we are a NASDAQ listed company there on this earth for last 40 years, and we have been serving only and only banks and financial institutions. So let's talk about, I believe everyone in this industry, everyone in this room, everyone must have spoken and heard about RBI's new draft on the alternative framework of authentication, right? So they are insisting, saying that, you should look at an alternative to the current posture of the authentication which is there. We should primarily look at it something the user knows, something the user has, and something the user is. That's very, very important. So whatever the authentication, you should look at it alternative to the current one, which is SMS OTP. It should be around this framework. So that's very important. Why are we looking for the alternative to SMS OTP? That's mainly because SMS OTPs are prone for the attacks. Could be the SMS forwarders, could be the social engineering attack. Someone calls up and says that, hey, we are calling from so-and-so bank and can you please share the OTP? Okay. But what if we just go away the OTP? OTP is working in the background, but OTP is not seen. Then user is not even lured to share the OTP. So that is very, very important. Even there are DPAC guidelines which talks about how the multi-factor authentication should look like, how the one-time password should be treated, and how the transaction signing to be done. Transaction signing was always given an importance into the corporate banking. But do we need this in the retail banking? Answer is yes. Because the thing is, now to build the trust between the consumer and the bank, you need to give an assurance to the consumer that what you see is what you sign. That is important actually, and therefore you need to ensure that if you provide the transaction signing even for the retail banking customers, that will give you a big trust assurance to the consumer, and it in fact at times helps bank to prove the responsibility of that particular transaction onto the consumer. Even the industry is now moving worldwide to moving away from OTP because of these attacks which are there. Okay. So in case if you are looking for a solution which is away from the SMS OTP, then what you should look at it. This is very important slide. This is an industry perspective slide, not specific to OneSpan. How OneSpan provides in line with this, that I'll explain. But you should ensure that if you are providing the authentication solution, okay, through your mobile or a soft authentication solution, you need to ensure that there is a device assurance. You need to ensure that there is an application assurance. Device assurance ensures that what is the posture of the device, how safe, how secure, in what environment it is operating. Because you do not have a control on the device, especially after the DPDP guidelines. If you want to have some sort of control onto the consumer's device, you need to get into a consent mode. Okay, so it is very important that in such scenarios where you have a stringent guidelines from the DPDP, how do you ensure that what is the security posture of the device? That's important. What is the security posture of the application? How strong your, the coding is? How strong your obfuscation is? How are they operating on a debugging device or not? Or anywhere else which is it. Then you have the credential assurance where data at rest. So whatever the data at rest onto the application has to be encrypted. And it has to be certain standards has to be there. Then you have the channel assurance for man-in-the-middle attack. Whatever the communication happening between your soft authentication, which is your mobile device or the internet banking device, and the server has to be in an encrypted format. So data at rest and data in transit both needs to be encrypted. And then you have the identity assurance. Who is accessing that authentication? Is he really supposed to be accessing that authentication? That's one thing. And the intent of the assurance. What is the intent behind that transaction? That is important, right? So in case if anyone want to discuss more in details, we are at the booth number 8. So please let us know. We will talk more on that. It also need to ensure that your authentication standard meets the OS standards. That's where the improper platform usage, insecure data storage, insecure communication, authentication, sufficient cryptography has to be there. Today morning, the sir was talking about the cryptography, but the cryptography at every level has to be there. Then you have the insecure authorization. Who is accessing your authentication? Is the authorized person. Then you have the code quality. We have found that the code quality of each banking application is different. I mean, can we bring it to the standard? Yes, we can bring it if we are talking in the forum together. Yeah. Code tampering, your code cannot be tampered because so far you are only providing the retail banking. But now if you are moving away from the SMS OTP, providing the authentication methodology onto the application, your code should be such a strong that it cannot be tampered. Then you need to be protected against the reverse engineering and the extraneous functionality. So these are the ways you can do that. Okay. So let me just quickly now talk about the kind of solution and how we are addressing this problem statement. So this solution is called Mobile Security Suite. It's a bunch of SDKs which goes below your mobile application and ensures that there is an in-app authentication which is there. So it ensures first the right device binding is there. This device binding is different than the one which device binding you are doing it currently. This device binding is done from a token specific. Then the data address and data in transit has to be secure, which is secure channel and secure communication storage, which is there. Then secure provisioning. So next time whenever there is a transaction is happening, this provisioning is always calling rather than just calling the device to the server, which is there. Then you have the enough cryptography. And then if you see on the right hand side, the different methodologies of the authentication, you can also have the proprietary authentication from OneSpan, or in case if you want to have the open standard authentication, which is FIDO, that can also be done. And at the end is CRONTO. So what is CRONTO? CRONTO is basically the passwordless or OTP-less authentication. Here you do not need to show the OTP to the customer or you need to share the customer. For example, so if you are, so this is the dynamic color QR code. Okay. First of all, it is different from the black and white QR code. Why? Because black and white QR code prone for the screen overlay attacks. You are just putting your password, email ID, user ID, and if the black and white QR code comes, you scan it, and or probably you just flip off a second and the screen overlay is there. You don't know what is the values behind this black and white QR code. But this cannot be compromised because this is a dynamic color QR code technology which is there. Okay. Let me walk you through how usually the use case works. So if you see the two ways you can do this. One is just put your user ID. Okay. There is a push notification goes, accept it and log in. Or else you can always also put user ID, show your color QR onto the internet banking, scan it with your mobile, accept it and log in. Now there is an OTP getting communicated in the background, but that OTP is not seen, which means this gives you the proximity check that user is close to that terminal where he is logging in. Also it gives you an assurance that this is an in-person authentication is happening. No more wife sharing a OTP with husband. And then after that husband complains saying that, hey, there is a fraud happened. And again, you end up, getting into the race of proving whether the authentication really was done by him or the genuinely or not genuinely, which is there. So this you can do that. You can also, which means you can implement this with the passwordless and the OTP-less authentication. OTP is invisible. Okay. It gives you the proximity check. It proves that you were there close. Then only you did it authentication. The mobile authentication, this is where the trend is coming. Okay. I saw one bank who is launching saying that the mobile authentications, but still there is a OTP in that, the visible. Here we are talking about not sharing the OTP and no visible OTP, which is there. And this has to be further protected with the mobile app shielding. So once that authentication is implemented, there is a shield has to be there on top of that application to ensure that your mobile authentication is not compromised, as well as your mobile retail banking journey is not compromised. Transaction data signing, I already said that, with the help of this, you can implement the transaction data signing even for the retail banking also. What you see is what you sign. In case if you want to give some of the hardware-based transaction data signing and CRONTO authentication, the middle one is there. You can see, look and feel that device at the, at the boot number 8. And this is the analytics you can get it of your security posture of your mobile application. It can be retail banking or corporate banking anywhere else, but this kind of analytics you can bring in. Today, bringing in the visibility from your user base is very, very difficult. But we can bring in how many your application is used on how many devices, what is a version, what is the security posture, how are they dealing with the threats, are they accepting it or they are rejecting it. So here you can definitely prove to the user. Usually when the fraud happens, there is always a blame game between the user and the bank, because we will always compare saying that, hey, this transaction was not done, and then you have to end up proving him saying that, hey, this was done by you, user negligence, so we are not refunding the money. But in this case, you can actually prove with this data. This brings to my end of the presentation. Thank you very much. And in case if anyone is interested, please reach out to us. We can share more details on that. Yeah, thank you.